This is a financial astrology video. It helps if you're using software like Timing Solution. It's for identifying swing pivot points on daily charts, specifically stock charts. The trades will last anywhere from 2 to 10 days, but this is not really a complete trading system. We're just going to try to identify short-term change in trend points on stock issues. To do that, we're going to use a technique developed by an astrologer from the United Kingdom, late 1800s, called Safarel. The technique is very simple. You need to identify a couple of planets which you're going to focus on, and his way of doing that was to use it. Well, he used an incorporation chart of the stock. We're going to use the first trade chart. First, you locate the sign that the sun is in, which planet rules that sign. And that's going to be our primary significator, or just we'll call it the prime planet. Now, what sign is that planet in? Which decanate? The ruler of that decanate is your secondary planet. We'll be looking at two stocks, so that you'll see this process in action. The first stock will be eBay, and the second stock will be IBM. Let's look at the first trade chart of eBay. You load it, by the way, here. You can create it here. So eBay, the first trade, September 24th, 1998, 9:30 a.m., New York City. So for eBay, we can see that the sun is in Libra. The ruler of Libra is Venus. Well, Venus is in Virgo, 22 degrees, which means it's in the third decanate of Virgo. The ruler of the third decanate of Virgo is Venus. See, if it were some other planet, we'd be done finding our two planets. But in this particular case, this is why I chose eBay. Our secondary planet is the same as the first, so we have to find another secondary planet. First thing, there's two things that catches my eye on this chart. The first is that Venus is within 1 degree, it's like 6 degrees, within 6 minutes, within 1 degree of a direct opposition to Jupiter. And Venus and Jupiter are related. They're both benefic planets. The second thing I notice is I have Saturn right here on my descendant. And Saturn is in Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is one of two planets which rules two signs. So Venus rules Taurus. Saturn is in Taurus. Saturn's on the descendant. And there's one other thing. Let me show it to you. When I look at the planetary geometry for eBay, first trade, not much really stands out here, except that I have a yod between Sun, Pluto, and Saturn. So Saturn appears to be significant in the first trade natal chart of eBay. We can probably look at both. You would just look at the historical effects of both Saturn and Jupiter and make a decision. Now, what we'll do is we're going to use the horizontal ephemeris. But we're going to use it a little bit differently than you saw in my regular swing pivot. That's the first swing pivot video. Is for very broad international markets, like the Euro-USD, the Forex market, or US stock indexes, which are traded internationally, or a market like, let's say, crude oil, traded internationally. But when you get down to the level of an individual stock, that technique won't be useful. You have to use the natal chart, depending on your style, either the incorporation or preferably the first trade. Additionally, you can use this technique on other markets, not just stocks. But let's say ETFs have become popular in the past decade. And if you were to trade this on an ETF, I would not use this on the first trade of an ETF. You would find what is that ETF is based on and use that. For an example, if you have trouble doing that, what I would recommend is load the chart, as much data as you can get, and find the highest high date and treat that as if it were your underlying natal chart. Basically, the highest high of any market, if that doesn't contain information about that market, then astrology doesn't work. So that's a very good quality substitute. Now let's take a look at what I've got here. I'm using the sixth harmonic for stocks. This is very different than what we were doing for the Euro USD. For stocks, use the sixth harmonic, right ascension. Instead of transit moon, we're going to use the transit sun. They're both lights. Sixth harmonic moon, we would get hits every other day. It would be unusable. But sun, moon, they're related. We're going to use the sun. Venus is the primary planet we saw with our analysis using Safarel's method. So we want transit Venus as our trigger and transit Sun as our trigger. These are our two trigger planets. We want natal Venus for obvious reasons. It's our primary planet. We want natal Saturn because, again, our analysis showed it's on the descendants, it's in a yacht formation, and it's in a sign ruled by our primary planet Venus. We can also, if we want, take a look at Jupiter, because Jupiter on the natal chart is in direct 1 degree opposition to Venus, the primary planet. Let's take a look at what we got. Now, before I do this, I just want to mention that you can use this on its own if you want, just the right ascension chart here, combining it with whatever swing trading system you're using. I just want to remind you, you never trade something like this on its own. You have to combine it with the swing trading methodology. I have a trading mechanics video out there, and there's certainly you may have your own swing trading techniques, but for timing you might want to combine this with the declination chart, which I'll show in a minute. And then to trade it, you want to use a tested swing trading system, stop loss, trailing stop or profit objective, good quality entry technique. So as we're following along, we can see that, oh, actually, you know what I just noticed when you do this? I see that Venus and Jupiter in sixth harmonic are occupying the exact same degree, so we don't need Jupiter. We can see that when our trigger planets, say here not much happened, that's this happens, but over here something did happen. We kind of were one day off from the bottom of a little swing down right here, or breakout I should say, sideways breakout. Swing pretty much ends here. So swing starts approximately here, swing ends. That's our trigger planet Venus. The black, this is our Saturn, and this is our natal Venus, this is our natal Saturn. Now look at what happens when our trigger planet, the Sun, hits natal Venus. It's a nice effect right here. This is our trigger transit Venus hitting natal Venus right at the top here. Swing ends when our trigger planet hits Saturn. Another swing ends and another swing begins when our trigger transit Sun hits natal Venus. Not much here. You get this incredible breakout here though, so that's some energy added to the market, but you wouldn't know that in real time. So we can follow this along, but see, here's some interesting stuff around over here. Let's look at declinations. Let's go back to a few months ago when we started this and look at how the declinations looked. And what did we use for the declinations? Declination, of course, will be first harmonic. There is no second or third harmonic in declination. It's always the first. Transit moon is our trigger. Transit Venus will be our trigger. And we can look at 3 different natal planets: Saturn, Jupiter. Venus is our primary planet, Saturn is our second, and natal Jupiter because it's in direct opposition to our primary planet. And when you do that, you get some pretty interesting effects here. So I'd rather, you don't really need me to, you can see when you have a cluster here, you have more powerful effect, just like you'd expect, but you don't really need me to go through this you can certainly do this on your own. I need to get into IBM, the other one, because that's going to have its own set of little peculiar circumstances. So let's do that. Let's exit these two. Let's open up a chart of IBM. Let me get the planetary geometry ready for IBM. We'll need to take a look at that. And let's open up IBM over here. Let's go to our first trade and select, it's in the Dow Jones over here, IBM, right there. February 2nd, 1924, back then the stock exchange opened at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York City. Calc. Let's take a look at the natal. Oh, there it is. February 14th, 1924, 10 a.m., New York City. So the Sun is in Aquarius, whose ruler is Uranus. So Uranus is our primary planet. Let's look for our secondary. Uranus is in Pisces, and the second decanate there would be Cancer. The 16th degree means it's in the second decanate of Pisces. That would be Cancer, and the ruler of Cancer is the moon. So the moon is our secondary planet. So we have Uranus and the moon. What else do we notice about the chart? Well, I have 16 degree Jupiter, Saturn. It's a perfect conjunction, so that has to be significant. Now, let's take a look at the planetary geometry just to see if anything stands out. Well, something sure as hell does stand out. Our primary planet is Uranus. And it's in a grand trine with Saturn. So the Sun is also in a grand trine with Saturn. And Jupiter and Mars ain't doing that bad either, as you can see. It's in a T-square with our prime planet. See, the Moon was our secondary planet. Uranus was our primary planet. And they're in a T-square with Mars and Jupiter, obviously because Mars and Jupiter are in conjunction. So we have very, very simple. I'm sure the most amateur astrologer out there has to agree that this was simple. So we have 4 planets. We have, from Safarel's technique, Uranus and the Moon. And by looking at the prime planetary geometry, we have Saturn and Mars. So we're going to take a look at that. Actually, if you want, all I'm going to do now is apply the exact same technique that we did before, so if you want, you already know how to find the primary planets using a natal chart, using the techniques I like. So you can basically stop watching if you want. Let me just leave you, before I do those planets with the horizontal ephemerae, this would be the exact rules on your horizontal ephemerae if you want to just pause the video and jot this down. So for those who want to stay on, let's do it. Horizontal ephemeris. Let me open her up. Let's start with right ascension. Let's calculate it. And we have 4 planets we want to look at. We in right ascension land, 6th harmonic again. Sun is our trigger. And this time Mars instead of Venus, because we noticed Mars is pretty significant. So these are our 2 trigger planets, Mars and the Sun. Our primary planet was Uranus. Our secondary planet was the Moon. We also saw that Saturn is significant, natal, and natal Mars is significant. Natal Mars is showing up not very cool, so there we go. Let's see what we got here. We have a lot of lines. The horizontal lines, of course, are your natal planets. The diagonal lines are your triggers. We have 2 trigger planets, Mars, Sun. We have 4 base planets. This is going to get very interesting, by the way, when we look at the declinations, so you want to hang out for that. And again, I don't think you need me to go over every single point. As you can see, that's pretty cool, right? You're probably sick and tired of listening to me say stuff. That's pretty cool. And that's nice. See, I changed cool to nice, so I'm doing a good job. Trying to keep everybody awake. But you can see that, you know, this is a YouTube video, and if you think, I know every now and then I get nasty emails, are you crazy or something? Well, the truth of the matter is, what if I were crazy? What does that have to do with anything? Let's talk about the techniques. If you could look at this and say that, oh, there's nothing here, you have issues. Again, this is a YouTube video, so I'm speaking to the general public. But this stuff here, not too much coincidence going on here. This was done by Safarel, late 1800s, London Stock Exchange. 130 years later, it's working pretty good. Working damn good. Let's look at the declinations next. Now, again, I don't want to go over all of this because it's just, you know, you can do this on your own. And let's just look at the other. You can. I mean, it's just amazing stuff you can do with this, as you can see. There's your top. There's your end. The exact same 2 planets. Planets start to swing. Same 2 planets end to swing. It just doesn't get better than this. It's cool. It's nice. It's hot. Anyway, let's go to the declinations now. Let's open her up. Declinations. Calc it. And we want, we don't want that. We want transit Moon and transit Mars as our triggers. We have to make this a little easier to see. We certainly want natal Uranus. We want natal Moon. And wait until you see Mars and Jupiter on this chart. It's crazy. Every time you do this, you always find something a little bit unique. So we have our 2 trigger planets, transit Mars, transit Moon, and we have our 4 natal planets. The primary, Uranus, the secondary, Moon, and hold on here. Saturn. That's right, Saturn. Yeah, Saturn and Mars. See, Jupiter and Mars were conjunct. I just want to, before I get into this, because you've heard all this before, this is something that, you know, it's good to look at the big picture. I noticed when I was doing this that when I did this, that because the minimum declination of the moon is so close to where my natal Saturn Jupiter are, I noticed that oftentimes the minimum declination had an effect on the market. So I just wanted to pass that along. You know, like over here, it's very nice. That's like, you know, maximum declination, minimum declination. So it seems that on this chart for IBM, the minimum maximum declinations of the moon seem to have a bit of a more pronounced effect than you would expect. And as you expect, here's our intersects of our trigo planets with our natals, and here's our swings. You know, I mean, it's nice. I mean, it's awesome, actually. It's not just nice. It's just really sweet. But you would be combining this with your right ascension chart. Swing start, swing end. And don't forget, you want to trade this along with some kind of a methodology that gets you in at a good price. You just want to watch my trading mechanics video, and that should clue you in. Okay, this technique again will work on practically anything that is localized in its trading, like a stock. If it's a broad market like a currency, a stock index, then you can use the other video for picking swing pivots. How did this guy do over here? Wow. All right, that's it.